Today we're going to talk about what the right wrist has to do on the two-handed backhand. Now obviously I'm also going to dive a little bit into what the left wrist does, but the right wrist is really the key point of this video. So let's take a look at what the wrist actually does right away. When we're hitting a two-handed backhand, no matter if we're using a closed stance, a semi-closed stance, or an open stance, in all of those cases, the wrist has to do pretty much the same thing. Whenever we're taking our racket back, our right wrist has to bend back like this, okay? This is really important. I'll explain in a second why. Whenever that happens, as we swing, this straightens back out through the contact point. So that means that bend in our wrist here doesn't stay until after the shot is done. That bend only stays until right before the contact point when it tries to go back to normal. Now that gets us right to why it's so important. Whenever we're hitting backhands, for most people it's a very flat shot. We're not creating a lot of topspin here, we're not creating a lot of pressure with the backhand, we're just basically blocking. Those people usually tend to keep the wrist a bit more stiff and keep it more straight, but they don't have any power in their backhands. Now, this wrist here, this wrist movement, is what gives us that power while at the same time adding topspin. How does it add topspin, you ask? Well, if we're taking our backswing, and let's say our contact point is somewhere right around here, right? Now I'm going to keep my arm almost on the same level as the contact point, and only my wrist bends to get the racket underneath the ball. Now you can see where this is going already. As I swing forward, because this is straightening out, my racket will move up through the contact point. That's what gives us topspin. Aside from that, this straightening out motion is kind of like our whipping effect on the backhand that we have to create in order to gain effortless power. So not just does it give us topspin, it also gives us more forward energy because it's like a snap. The wrist flicks into the contact point. Now, why does this straighten back out? Well, because if our shoulder rotation leads the motion, at some point the shoulder rotation cannot get any faster and will start to slow down. At that moment, our arms pass our shoulders in terms of speed, and when the arms cannot go any faster and start to slow down, the wrist starts to pass our arms in terms of speed. That's our whipping effect. The power transfers from our shoulder rotation all the way into the wrist and thus into the racket. So this little bend here makes a difference between, a regular decent backhand and a pro-level backhand. Now obviously it's not that easy to control. That's why most people don't have this, because they feel like they're going to lose control over their shots. However, if you train this with the same amount of repetitions that you've used on your regular backhand where you're just keeping your wrist straight, you're going to gain control over it very quickly, because the backhand is already a compact shot in nature, which means we in general have a bit more control but a little bit less potential for power. Now what does the left wrist do on the backhand? Let's take a look. If I'm swinging here, once I do that bend in my wrist, my left wrist is also kind of bent back. Now as I swing through the contact point, the left wrist will also straighten out the same way as the right wrist does. It's just bent in the opposite direction because our left hand holds the racket from the back, not from the front or from the top. So the angles are slightly different, the movement is the same. We're going to have that same type of straightening out motion, and we still have to hold on tight to create the correct angle in our racket during the contact point. Now let me show you a couple of examples.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.